This is a clip of a gymnastics facility in China. This is the Nanning Gymnasium. Now here you can see is the normal day of what it's like to be training in the gymnasium in China. Now you can see how the coach is pushing and pulling the child's limbs just to force them into this weird shape for the body. All of these children are being pushed to their limits. Look at their expressions. Do you see how they're in pain? Do you see the pain in their faces? Do you see the way how the coach kicked his own student? Or how the girl was pulled off the beam? This is how training is like every day in China, in the gymnastics facility centers. How do you feel about it now? We know that gymnastics is an awesome sport. It teaches individual grace and strength. But gymnastics training is way too intense, especially in the Chinese methods of gymnastics training. The training in China is just too hard, and it deprives these children from their youth. The expectations for a young child is too much for them to accomplish. Bill Skiller from Foreign Affairs reports that sports were created for health and strength. But today, sports are now becoming harmful to children athletes, causing bone deformation, overexhaustion, and severe illness. Because of the expectation of the sport is too much, these children feel like they're obligated to satisfy the coach. So they train really hard, and it's not healthy or not right for these such small young children to go through such intense, brutal training, because it really affects them psychologically and physically. It's too much for these children to endure with such a small body. Next, let's look at the views of the discipline in the sports of gymnastics. Now, gymnastics is a component of three things: strength, flexibility, and mentality. Chinese officials believe that without beating, there is no success. There's a difference in pushing and abusing an individual. Matthew Peinstein, a German Olympic coach, reports from his experience from visiting a facility center in China that it was pretty disturbing. It was a pretty disturbing experience. I was definitely shocked to see what those kids were what they were going through, and he knows that, and I know that in this particular sport of gymnastics, you must start at a really young age to really become better. And he also stated that he knows that the Western and the Eastern approaches of training is different from each other. But later on, he discovers that a child has actually been abused because he has observed that a boy had mark on his back. Now, there's a limit between pushing an athlete to the limit where you want them to benefit or persevere, versus where you abuse them, where the coach is pouring out their frustration on these gymnasts and actually abusing them because they can't get these skills right. Because of the strain from all these high expectations in the Chinese methods of gymnastics, training is too much for a gymnast to fulfill. A coach will beat their student up just to teach them a lesson, to become better. This is just wrong. Last but not least, believe it or not, the government actually allows that young children, or encourages young children to actually go into these sports facilities and take the opportunity to become a rising star. And Virginia Wu from Epoch Times reports that these children, as young as 4 years old, are taken away from the families, far out from the city of where they are known to are familiar with, and they go into training every day, and for like the whole day, practicing long hours. That the government just demands too much for young children to take the opportunity to join sports and train so long that it's just so much for these children to endure, and it's not right, because it really makes these young children go to the extreme of pushing themselves over the limits. So the Chinese method is just too much for the Chinese method in gymnastics training is just too much. It really pushes a child's mind mentally, causing them to be hurt mentally from what the coaches say to them, because the coaches expect too much. And the abuse is, and there's a difference between abusing and pushing. And the government allowing to demand more child gymnasts to actually start is just cruel, and it's just morally not wrong, because these children are so young, their bodies are not made to do this thing, to do such crucial sports. So let's think more about how the Chinese method is just too cruel, and it really deprives a child from their childhood. Think about it. What if it was your child in this situation? What would you do? How would you like if your child was being treated this way? Think about it.